All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Abhishek Mukhopadhyay and with me is VC Pramod. The headlines. Around 60% voter turnout recorded in the fourth phase of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. Broadband connectivity will not only provide facilities in villages but will also create large pool of skilled youth in rural areas. Prime Minister Narendra Modi tells a post-budget webinar on rural development. Prime Minister to address a webinar on positive impact of Union budget on agriculture sector this morning. Jammu and Kashmir delimitation panel gets 2 months extension until May this year. Maharashtra Minister and NCP leader Nawab Malik remanded to ED custody till March 3rd in money laundering and terror funding cases. Centre informs Supreme Court that 18,000 crore rupees returned to banks in Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi cases. Ukraine's parliament imposes state of emergency to deal with the situation arising out of threat from Russia. And in cricket, India to take on Sri Lanka in the first T20 of the 3-match series in Lucknow this evening. With the new Omicron variant of coronavirus causing concern, we appeal to our listeners to be vigilant and get fully vaccinated and also help others, including children between 15 and 18 years, to get vaccinated. Please continue to follow these 3 simple steps to stay safe. Wear a face mask. Maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing. Focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011 2397 8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Around 60% polling was recorded during the 4th phase assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh yesterday. Voting for 59 seats were held in 9 districts of the state in this phase. These districts were Pilibhit, Lakhimpur Kheri, Sitapur, Lucknow, Hardoi, Unnao, Rai Bareli, Fatehpur and Banda. 624 candidates were in the fray in this phase. With the completion of the 4th round of polling, 231 assembly constituencies out of 403 in the state have been covered. The last 3 phases of voting will be held on February 27th, March 3rd and March 7th. Counting of votes will be taken up on March 10th. Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address public meetings at Amethi and Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh today. Senior BJP leader and Home Minister Amit Shah will address public meetings at Kesarganj, Bahraich and Basti in Uttar Pradesh today. Senior BJP leader and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will address public meetings at Kushinagar and Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh today.
In Manipur, with barely 4 days left for the first phase of assembly polls to be held on February 28th, campaigning reached its peak, with political parties and their leaders reaching out to voters. Convener of Northeastern Democratic Alliance, NEDA, and Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma asserted that the BJP will form the next government without any help from other parties. Mr. Sharma expressed confidence that BJP would win more than 40 seats in 60-member assembly. On the other hand, senior Congress leader Okram Ibobi Singh said that people want change as they are fed up with the current dispensation. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that digital connectivity of villages is no longer an aspiration but the need of the day. Addressing a webinar on the Union Budget 2022, Mr. Modi said broadband connectivity will not only provide facilities in the villages, but it will also help in creating a large pool of skilled youth in the rural areas. Prime Minister said when the service sector expands with broadband connectivity in the village, the country's potential will increase further.
गांवों की डिजिटल कनेक्टिविटी अब एक एस्पिरेशन भर नहीं है, बल्कि आज की जरूरत है। ब्रॉडबैंड कनेक्टिविटी से गांवों में सुविधाएं नहीं मिलेगी, बल्कि ये गांवों में स्किल्ड युवाओं का एक बड़ा पूल तैयार करने में भी मदद करेगा। गांवों में ब्रॉडबैंड कनेक्टिविटी से सर्विस सेक्टर का विस्तार जब होगा तो देश का सामर्थ्य और ज्यादा बढ़ेगा। ऑप्टिकल फाइबर कनेक्टिविटी में अगर कहीं कोई दिक्कतें आ रही हैं तो उनकी पहचान और उनका समाधान हमें ढूंढना ही होगा। जिन जिन गांवों में काम पूरा हो चुका है वहां क्वालिटी और इनके प्रॉपर यूज के प्रति जागरूकता फैलाना भी उतना ही जरूरी है।
Prime Minister said to achieve 100% target in different schemes, we also have to focus on new technology so that the projects are also completed faster and there is no compromise with the quality. He highlighted that over 40 lakh property cards have been provided under the Swamitva Yojana. He said a unique land identification PIN and land record registration will further make the process seamless.
साथियों, गांवों के विकास में वहां घर और जमीन की प्रॉपर डिमार्केशन बहुत आवश्यक है। स्वामित्व योजना से इसमें बहुत मदद मिल रही है। अभी तक इसके तहत 40 लाख से अधिक प्रॉपर्टी कार्ड्स जारी किए जा चुके हैं। लैंड रिकॉर्ड्स के रजिस्ट्रेशन के लिए एक नेशनल सिस्टम और एक यूनिक लैंड आइडेंटिफिकेशन पिन एक बहुत बड़ी सुविधा होगी। रेवेन्यू डिपार्टमेंट पर सामान्य ग्रामीण की निर्भरता कम से कम हो, हमें ये सुनिश्चित करना है। लैंड रिकॉर्ड्स के डिजिटाइजेशन और डिमार्केशन से जुड़े समाधानों को आधुनिक टेक्नोलॉजी से जोड़ना आज की जरूरत है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address a webinar on the positive impact of Union Budget 2022-23 at 10 a.m. today. The theme of the webinar is Smart Agriculture. The Prime Minister will discuss on sustainable, modern, mechanized, Atmanirbhar, resilient and tech-driven agriculture during the program.
Today is the third anniversary of the launch of Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi PM Kisan scheme. The scheme was launched on the 24th of February in 2019 to provide income support to all landholding farmers' families across the country and enable them to meet expenses related to agriculture as well as domestic needs. Under the scheme, an amount of 6,000 rupees per year is transferred in 3 equal installments of 2,000 rupees directly into the bank accounts of the farmers, subject to certain exclusion criteria relating to higher income status. So far, over 1.80 lakh crore rupees have been transferred directly into the bank accounts of the farmer families under PM Kisan scheme. We spoke to Minister of State for Agriculture Kailash Chaudhary about this scheme.
प्रधानमंत्री माननीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी का लक्ष्य है कि किसान की इनकम डबल करना और किसान को आत्मनिर्भर बनाना, और इस दृष्टि से निश्चित रूप से ऐसी कई महत्वपूर्ण योजनाएं बनाई और जिससे कि किसान को डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट भी हो और इसके साथ ही रिस्क कवर भी हो और उसके साथ ही उसको नई टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ भी जोड़ा जाए। और इस दृष्टि से किसान सम्मान निधि योजना प्रारंभ की गई और उसके अंदर लगभग आज 1,80,000 करोड़ रुपए डायरेक्ट किसानों के खाते में पहुंचे। आने वाले कल में देश का किसान स्वयं उसकी प्रोसेसिंग करेगा। इस दृष्टि से आज किसानों के लिए एग्रीकल्चर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फंड के तहत 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए का प्रावधान किया गया है। कृषि के अंदर नई टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ में कैसे किसान जुड़ेगा और किस तरह से वो अपने उत्पादन को बढ़ाएगा। 10 बजे एग्रीकल्चर को लेकर ही प्रधानमंत्री जी संबोधित करेंगे।
The term of the Delimitation Commission mandated to withdraw the assembly constituencies of Jammu and Kashmir has been extended by 2 months to complete its task. The panel's term was to end on March 6th. The panel needs more time to ready its final report. Headed by former Supreme Court Judge Ranjana Prakash Desai, it has Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra and the State Election Commissioner of Jammu and Kashmir as its ex-officio members. In its draft report shared with its 5 associated members, all Lok Sabha members from Jammu and Kashmir, the Delimitation Panel has proposed an overhaul of Assembly and Lok Sabha constituencies in the Union Territory. Atal Innovation Mission, AIM, which is Government of India's flagship initiative, has been implemented with an objective to foster innovation and entrepreneurship in schools, colleges and society at large, and promote a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in the country. On 24th February 2016, the Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, had given its approval for establishment of Atal Innovation Mission. AIM has taken a holistic approach to ensure creation of a problem-solving innovative mindset in schools and creating an ecosystem of entrepreneurship in universities, research institutions, private and MSME sector. All the initiatives of AIM are currently monitored and managed systematically using real-time MIS systems and dynamic dashboards.
Electronics and Information Technology Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw will release National Strategy on Additive Manufacturing today. This will cater next-generation digital manufacturing. Electronics and IT Ministry said additive manufacturing has immense potential to revolutionize the country's manufacturing and industrial production landscape. Minister of State for Electronics and IT Rajiv Chandrasekhar Secretary Ajay Sohani and other officials will attend the event. NCP leader and Maharashtra's Minority Affairs Minister Nawab Malik has been remanded to Enforcement Directorate's custody till the 3rd of March. He was arrested earlier yesterday in connection with a money laundering case linked to fugitive terrorist Dawood Ibrahim. He was then produced before Special Judge Rahul Rokade, where the investigative agency had sought 15 days custody. Appearing on ED's behalf, Additional Solicitor General Anil Singh informed the court about the illegal land deal between Nawab Malik's company and 1993 Mumbai bomb blast convict Sardar Shahwali Khan and Mohammad Salim Patel, who was Hasina Parker's frontman. The ASG explained that the property in Goawala compound in Kurla originally belonged to a woman named Munira Plumber and her sister. Mr. Singh said that the property was acquired by Hasina Parker through a forged power of attorney and not a single rupee was paid to the actual owners. Denying all allegations, senior advocate Amit Desai claimed that his client Nawab Malik has been arrested to create a perception that an elected representative is involved in anti-national activities. You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Around 60% voter turnout recorded in fourth phase of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. Broadband connectivity will not only provide facilities in villages but will also create large pool of skilled youth in rural areas. Prime Minister tells a post-budget webinar on rural development. Prime Minister to address a webinar on positive impact of Union budget on agriculture sector this morning. Jammu and Kashmir delimitation panel gets 2 months extension until May this year. Maharashtra Minister and NCP leader Nawab Malik remanded to ED custody till March 3rd in money laundering and terror funding cases. Centre informs Supreme Court that 18,000 crore rupees returned to banks in Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi cases. Ukraine's parliament imposes state of emergency to deal with the situation arising out of threat from Russia. And in cricket, India to take on Sri Lanka in the first T20 of the 3-match series in Lucknow this evening. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
अपने बिजनेस को बढ़ाने के लिए लीजिए आकाशवाणी का सहयोग और दीजिए उसे बुलंदियों के पंख।
आपका बिजनेस लोकल है या राष्ट्रीय, आकाशवाणी देती है उपभोक्ताओं तक पहुंचने का हर विकल्प।
और अब तो आप घर, दफ्तर या दुकान पर बैठे बैठे कर सकते हैं आकाशवाणी के किसी भी केंद्र के लिए विज्ञापनों की बुकिंग।
आकाशवाणी के विभिन्न चैनलों पर विज्ञापन देना सुलभ और सस्ता।
बुकिंग है तो संपर्क करें 8700014242 पर।
8700014242।
Welcome back. You're listening to the morning news. The centre has informed Supreme Court that 18,000 crores have been returned to the banks in Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi cases. Representing the centre, Solicitor General Tushar Mehta submitted before the Apex Court that the total proceeds of crimes in the Prevention of Money Laundering Act (PMLA) cases pending before the top court amounts to 67,000 crore rupees. He further said that as on date, 4,700 cases are being investigated by the Enforcement Directorate. Mr. Mehta said the number of the cases taken up for investigation each year in the last 5 years varies from 111 cases in 2015-16 to 981 in 2020-21. Supreme Court was hearing a bunch of petitions challenging the wide scope of powers available to the ED for search, seizure, investigation and attachment of proceeds of crime under the law. India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage has crossed 176 crore 47 lakh mark. Health Ministry said more than 26 lakh 88,000 vaccine doses were administered yesterday. More than 1 crore 94 lakh precaution doses have been administered to identified categories of beneficiaries like healthcare workers, frontline workers and people over 60 years of age.
In Odisha, the fifth and final phase of the Panchayat elections is taking place today. Polling that began at 7 in the morning is being held in 131 Zilla Parishad zones, which includes 975 Gram Panchayats. More from our correspondent.
One of the highlights of these phase of Panchayat elections in the state is that the Naxal-affected erstwhile cut-off area, also known as Swabhiman Anchal in remote Malkangiri district, is also going to polls after a long gap. Given these and the sporadic violence that occurred in the earlier phases, about 260 platoons of police force have been deployed across all the 13,514 booths where voting is underway now. While the fourth phase of election that was held day before yesterday witnessed about 79% of voting, counting of votes cast in all the 5 phases will commence from day after tomorrow. Girish Chandradas, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
Kerala government has decided to include the Christian Nada community in the OBC list. The decision comes in the backdrop of the union government handing over powers to the states to decide on beneficiaries falling under OBC category. Kerala High Court had stayed a similar decision of the state cabinet took in February last year, saying the states were not empowered to expand the OBC list.
And now let's listen to a special program, Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव।
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a Nation. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
England is so powerful. Its army and its navy, all its modern weapons. But when a great power like that strikes defenseless people, it shows its brutality.
On the 24th of February 1919, Mahatma Gandhi initiated the campaign against Rowlatt Acts and set up Satyagraha Sabha at Bombay. The movement was against the exclusion of freedom of press and detention without trial. During this agitation, Gandhiji famously said,
"It is my firm belief that we shall obtain salvation only through suffering and not by reforms dropping on us from the English. They use brute, we soul force."
The Rowlatt Acts allowed political cases to be tried without juries and permitted internment of suspects without trial, suspending the right of habeas corpus. Freedom fighters rose up against this brutal act, and the country witnessed a remarkable political awakening during the months of March and April of 1919.
There were hartals, strikes, processions and demonstrations. In Amritsar, the local leaders Kichlu and Satyapal were deported on the 9th of April. The arrest of the local leaders led to attacks on the symbols of British authority. On the 11th of April, martial law was clamped with General Dyers in command.
After the incident of Jallianwala Bagh massacre on the 13th of April 1919, the country rose up together in non-cooperation movement. In March 1922, accepting the report of the Repressive Laws Committee, the British colonial government repealed the Rowlatt Act, the Press Act, and 22 other laws.
We remember freedom fighter Nenu Ram, who was born on the 24th of February 1892 in district Mandsaur, Madhya Pradesh. Nenu became the president of Haroti Rajasthan Seva Sangh, Kota during 1920 and 1926 and mobilized the peasants of Barad and Bundi's Dabi for the abolition of forced labor and redressal of agrarian grievances. He was arrested in 1920.
From 1926 to 1936, Nenu Ram served as the president of Haroti Rajya Praja Mandal in Kota. He also worked as an executive member of the Kota Rajya Praja Mandal from 1934 to 1936 and was elected president of its fourth session at Mangrol in May 1939. A liberal and secular leader, Nenu Ram advocated for responsible government in the Kota state. He was murdered under mysterious circumstances while travelling from Ramganj Mandi to his village Nimana on 14th of October 1941. We salute the great Indian. We also remember freedom fighter Bondoka Bhotra, who died on the 24th of February 1943. Bhotra participated in the Quit India movement in 1942 in Odisha in response to the nationwide call of Mahatma Gandhi. He was arrested and detained in Nabrangpur jail, where he fell ill due to the unhygienic living conditions and lack of medical care. On the 15th of February 1943, he was admitted to the hospital and later shifted to Koraput district jail. Bondoka Bhotra died due to heart failure on the 24th of February 1943 while in prison. We salute the great martyr. To the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
In news just in, President Vladimir Putin says Russia will conduct a military operation in eastern Ukraine. In a televised address, Putin said the action comes in response to threats coming from Ukraine. He added that Russia doesn't have a goal to occupy Ukraine. Putin said the responsibility for bloodshed lies with the Ukrainian regime. Putin warned other countries that any attempt to interfere with the Russian action would lead to consequences they have never seen. Russia has deployed more than 1.5 lakh troops near Ukraine's borders. Ukraine's parliament has imposed a national state of emergency aimed at helping to forge a response to the threat of a Russian invasion. The measure was overwhelmingly approved on the same day that Moscow began to evacuate in Kyiv embassy and Washington stepped up its warnings about the chances of an all-out Russian attack. The state of emergency allows Ukraine's regional governments to adopt heightened security measures that range from tighter ID and vehicle checks to more stringent policing. They apply to all parts of Ukraine except for two Russian-backed eastern separatist regions where a deadly insurgency has killed more than 14,000 people in the past 2 years. Russian President Vladimir Putin's recognition of the eastern provinces' independence on Monday sharply ramped up fears of an imminent war. Putin has signed a decree allowing the deployment of Russian peacekeeping forces into rebel territories to back up the independence claims. The Russian leader said that his decision to send in the troops will depend on the situation on the ground. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar today chaired a meeting of Indian ambassadors to EU countries and appreciated their commitment to assist Indian diaspora during the COVID period. The External Affairs Minister arrived in Paris on Sunday on a 3-day trip after paying a 2-day visit to Germany. Mr. S. Jaishankar also called on French President Emmanuel Macron and said that discussions reflected the full spirit of bilateral strategic partnership. Jaishankar in a tweet said that the two countries will cooperate closely in the Indo-Pacific. Early in the day, speaking at the French Institute of International Relations on how India sees France, the minister said there is a clear need to intensify the conversation between and with the strategic communities in both countries.
Team India will face Sri Lanka in the first T20 International of the 3-match series today at the Bharat Ratna Atal Bihari Vajpayee Ekana Cricket Stadium in Lucknow. The play will start at 7 p.m. Rohit Sharma will lead the team and Dasun Shanaka will take the command of the Sri Lankan T20 squad. The second and third T20 International will be played on 26th and 27th of this month at the Himachal Pradesh Cricket Association Stadium in Dharamshala. Women's hockey team of Spain arrived on Tuesday in Bhubaneswar, Odisha, ahead of the two-legged contest against the host India in the FIH Hockey Pro League 2021-22. Scheduled to take place on February 26th and 27th at the Kalinga Hockey Stadium. Matches will be played on Saturday and Sunday at 1700 hours IST. In archery, Indian compound para-archer Shyam Sundar Swami and Jyoti Balia created history by storming to the final of the mixed team event at the ongoing World Archery Para Championships in Dubai yesterday. This is the first time Indian archers have made it to the gold medal match, having participated in 3 World Championships. The pair of Swami and Jyoti Balia shot brilliantly to defeat France, comprising Julie Rigol-Shupin and Thierry Hosame, 151-145 in the semi-finals. The Indian team will meet Russian Federation in the summit clash on Friday. And now an overview of today's newspapers.
Srinagar will have partly cloudy sky with possibility of rain or thunderstorm or dust storm. Temperature will hover between 1 and 8 degrees Celsius. Jammu will have thunderstorm with rain. The minimum temperature is 12 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 18 degrees. Leh is likely to have light snow. The minimum and maximum temperature will hover between -11 and -2 degrees Celsius. Gilgit will have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The temperature will hover between 3 and 12 degrees Celsius. Muzaffarabad will have thunderstorm with rain. The minimum temperature was 6 degrees Celsius and maximum will be around 15 degrees. The national capital Delhi is likely to have partly cloudy sky. The temperature will vary between 14 and 27 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have mainly clear sky. The minimum temperature was 19 degrees Celsius, while the maximum is expected to be around 32 degrees. Chennai is likely to have partly cloudy sky. The temperature will vary between 25 and 33 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will have mainly clear sky. The minimum temperature was 19 degrees Celsius and a maximum of around 30 degrees. Itanagar will have partly cloudy sky towards afternoon or evening. Temperature will hover between 8 and 24 degrees Celsius. Ladakh Lieutenant Governor R.K. Mathur chaired the first UT-level District Development and Monitoring Committee DISHA virtual meeting in Leh. The committee reviewed 41 central schemes being implemented in rural areas. Speaking to the DISHA committee members, Mr. Mathur emphasized on planning to avoid duplication of work under different schemes and convergence of various schemes. He appealed for special focus and attention on Jal Jeevan Mission, cleanliness and livelihood schemes in Ladakh. He reiterated that all the rural households should be connected with functional household tap connections by the 15th of August this year. Mr. Mathur also said that a comprehensive approach is needed for keeping Ladakh clean. He stressed on livelihood and self-employment generation schemes with focus on women, minorities and handicapped persons. He also asked the Leh and Kargil Deputy Commissioners to include self-generation schemes in the annual plans and electrifying all possible educational and health institutions by June 2022.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. Ukraine crisis escalates. Sanctions regime begins, leads the pioneer. Indian stand balanced, independent, says Russia, writes the Hindu. US allies slap more sanctions on Russia, reports the Business Line. 2 cops held in student leader Anis Khan murder in West Bengal, reports the Asian Age. Enforcement Directorate arrests Maharashtra Minister Malik of NCP for funding Dawood Ops, states the Times of India. In another story, Financial Express speculates Enforcement Directorate may seize Lalu's assets from fodder scam. International debut for Tejas in tactical combat flying, notes Business Standard. IAF to send 5 Tejas for multinational drill in UK, informs the Tribune. Supreme Court refuses to cancel offline board exams, reports the Statesman. And finally, in a bid to fill staffing gap, Hindustan Times reports central government set to open up its ministries to apprenticeships with up to 15,000 rupees pay on offer.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Around 60% voter turnout recorded in the 4th phase of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. Broadband connectivity will not only provide facilities in villages but will also create large pool of skilled youth in rural areas. Prime Minister Narendra Modi tells a post-budget webinar on rural development. Prime Minister to address a webinar on positive impact of Union budget on agriculture sector this morning. Jammu and Kashmir delimitation panel gets 2 months extension until May this year. Maharashtra Minister and NCP leader Nawab Malik remanded to ED custody till March 3rd in money laundering and terror funding cases. Centre informs Supreme Court that 18,000 crore rupees returned to banks in Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi cases. Ukraine's parliament imposes state of emergency to deal with the situation arising out of threat from Russia. And in cricket, India to take on Sri Lanka in the first T20 of the three-match series in Lucknow this evening. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.